This is Astro CB. I'm loaded and I'm heading toward Sand Gap Church. Hey guys, Astro CB here, and finally after 3 months we've had cloudy skies. Eastern Kentucky's been slammed by floods, so pray for them. But we are finally back to Sand Gap Church over here in Argolite, Kentucky, and we're going to set up and do some Astro tonight if the clouds allow us. So far it's not looking too bad. By about 3 in the morning, though, we should have clear skies. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I'll be.
Are you set to be up till 3 in the morning?
No.
All right, this is my daughter Mary Beth, and she's going to be out here with us today and help us set up. Man, there is just never enough daylight, it seems like. I try to get out here early to set up. It's already starting to get a little dusky. So I've got this mounted now, and I want to make sure it's in balance. That way it's easy on the motor. Maybe take the weight down just a little bit, the counterweight, which will help balance it that way. I mean, it shouldn't really fall by itself. So that seems to be perfectly in balance there. That went really surprisingly easy. The other part I try to balance is the scope itself. To make sure, oh, it's a little heavy that way. So to fix that, all I have to do is just move the scope a little bit forward. Because I actually put it on there before I put my camera on there. And now we're good. So we're balanced in 2 ways. I go back to 0, and the next thing I'm going to do is hook everything up and start programming and make sure I got good communications with the computer and go from there. Okay, so part of the setup here, which thankfully my phone has this compass app, I can just get the coordinates off of it. Part of the setup here is entering our coordinates into this hand controller. It's a warning, never use your telescope towards the sun. Okay, so it's a set longitude. My longitude looks like it's set to the same thing, 82 degrees west, 48 hours and 37 minutes. So there's that. And north latitude is 38 degrees, 26 minutes, 25. So we're good to go there. Time zone is still East Coast, so that's going to be -500. I'm assuming my elevation is still 274 meters, and yes, that is important. And today's date, do you know what today's date is?
The 8th?
No, today is August.
Oh, I thought it was the 8th.
It's kind of funny because it has the last day I did Astro in here, and that's 3 months ago. So
it said it was the 8th on there.
18, 2022, and the time is 20:39. We're getting dark. So we got that in there.
Not really.
PM, daylight savings time, yes. Polaris position, which you're not going to be able to see Polaris just yet, but it is 10:57. Now tonight I'm going to be using Sharp Cap, and I'm going to be using the guide scope to try to line up. Hopefully it's still in focus. Begin alignment. For now I'm going to say no. And hit escape. Alright, so now this is plugged in. And we just heard it disconnect. And the next thing I'll do now is test the mount to make sure it is hooked to the computer properly. Okay, for the purpose of this short test, and I don't even have the telescope on like lined up north yet. For the purpose of this test, I'm going to search up Polaris. I'm going to try the go-to on there. You have to pardon this mouse, it's really slow. So now we're going to see if the mount responds. Yeah, we're responding, so that's good. So we got comms with the mount. Good to go there. There we go, that's where it would be if it was actually facing north. But it's not facing north yet. Next thing I want to do, make sure I'm getting images from the camera. Then of course, before it gets totally dark, it'd be nice to build an image plan to make sure that works. So I'm gonna do a real quick
exposure
shot
started.
at this blue sky. Nothing's really gonna show up. It's gonna be a time exposure, so it's probably gonna be extremely bright once it finishes up there. I just wanna make sure we got good communication, good comms with the camera. My goodness, how long was this set to? Probably a long time. So we got ISO of 1000.
Exposure finished.
So it's gonna be probably like the brightest picture in the world. It's really slow coming across. Yeah, but that tells me that it's taken good photos. So now I'm gonna go ahead and park the scope. Sometimes when I do this and I park it, it goes to the wrong place, but hopefully it'll work. I'll park it and reline up north. Still got quite a bit of time until Polaris does come out for me to even get on Polaris to sight it. And my parking position looks kind of crazy. Maybe it'll turn around.
Where is it slanted?
Yeah, I don't know where it's trying to park to, but I might have to stop it so it doesn't run into itself. All right, so we'll do a manual adjustment after this. That is totally not the right spot. Yeah, so that is not park, but we'll set park when we reconnect. I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect the scope, disconnect everything.
Telescope disconnected.
And continue setup on the smaller mount, the Skywatcher. Find north position on it, line up on it. I've got the Rokin on 135 on it. Thank you for that flash.
I'm sorry.
And this one is the Rokin on 14, and it's on a Canon. We'll try to get some Milky Way shots. And this is a Rokin on 135, and I think it's on the T3i.
Wait, we might see the Milky Way?
This one is set on the T5. There's a guide scope, and that is a William Optics 61 telescope connected to that. This is the mount, and we'll just wait for dark to set in and continue setting things in the proper spots.
Oh, I can.
Okay, I've got a mixture between good and excellent here on polar alignment. I'm using Sharp Cap, which uses the guide scope to align. It's much better and more accurate than I could ever think of aligning. So that's just this little scope that's on top here. So I can pull up the brightness to bring it in. Probably not. It's pretty dark, but up there is Polaris, and we're lined up with it. So the next thing to do now is hope that it stays that way, and it will stay that way as long as I don't bump it or anything else. So we're ready to build an image plan. All right, for the next step, and boy, I am rusty, is to get the camera in focus. And to do that, we use something called a batten-off mask, which is just basically a cover that goes over the end of the telescope with a bunch of holes in it. See, kind of carefully put that on there. That brings up these crosshairs. As we can see, they're not exactly lined up. So that's when I will try to go over here and and look at this image while making slight little adjustments on focus. Now here I'm using the smaller focus knob to make the adjustments because it's just a tiny wee little bit. See, I go there, it's out of focus. There's in the middle. I go over too far, it's out of focus. When these three lines are just like that, we're in focus. And plus, with the Bahtinov mask off, you'll see smaller stars appear. So I've just got, now I'm looking at the interior of the Bahtinov. Just those wee little tiny lines. So I'll make a slight adjustment to get those dots right in the middle and center. You can see a bad pixel on there too popping up. That's why it's important to take darks and your flat frames. But there it is, we are in focus now. I just got to sync up and do my Go-To++ to sync everything together. And then we're ready to shoot targets. Okay, so we're gonna shoot at Andromeda. You can see here it's just a little bit out of frame. It's not even auto stretched, so that looks pretty good. If I do an auto stretch on here, you can see more what it's gonna look like. And you can see the galaxy right here. It's pretty big. It will take up most of my screen when I get it centered. But it's not exactly centered. So I'm going to use Point Craft. Go to my objects. I'm going to select Andromeda. I'm going to first hit solve. So now it's going to solve this image. And I already know it's going to ask when I start this to be in bulb mode. So I've got to go back to my camera and make sure it's in bulb mode. And it is. Having to fit with my mouse here. So it's 20, I don't know why it takes so long to solve sometimes. It really shouldn't. 27 seconds in.
Image solved.
Oh, there we go. Now we've solved. So then after I solve it, I go to plate solving here and I hit sync. So that is synced. And then for Go-To++, I need to once again select Andromeda Galaxy. Hit OK. I hit Go-To++, and it will make a slight slewing to get that object in the center.
Exposure started.
Hopefully the plane doesn't come into view of the, while I'm trying to plate solve, but it looks like it's going to go right in front of the mount. Look at that. That's wonderful timing. That's a plane. Hopefully planes don't go through there all night. But it's going to do the Go-To++. And we'll put this white right on top of this
Exposure
red dot.
finished.
With any luck, it's only going to have to do it once. And nope, it's going to have to do it again. It will solve the image. This might take longer than I thought. Another plane. I don't see it in the frame though, so we're good. Well, people are flying again. So it's solved, and now it will slew once again. It's going to move the mount.
Exposure started.
That was really a small move. It's incredible how slight it moves. I could never do this by hand to try to just line it up perfectly. Imagine trying to do all this on this little tiny screen right here on the camera. It's difficult. So this Astrophotography tool makes this a lot easier to do. So
Exposure finished.
This is just getting set up. We haven't even started shooting yet. We're still getting set up. Oh, there we go. See, we're right on that center line. Sorry, the screen's a little bit dirty, or it's probably due already. Hopefully my dew heaters are plugged in and keeping the telescope from getting dew on it. But it's still solving. And once it solves,
Go to ++ finished.
go to ++ is finished. I like the narration on this. You can turn it on or off and just read things, but I like that. Now it's settling the scope. And the next thing I'm going to do is start push here dummy PhD guiding. And that guide control will keep me on target. It'll make very minor adjustments to the mount. But it's important to remember that it takes a minute for this to calibrate before you start shooting the images, or you're going to wind up with squiggly lines for stars. So in this, first thing I want to do is connect my equipment. That will connect to both the mount and to the Zero camera. If everything goes well, we'll click connect all. Now we're connecting. We'll wait for this to start looping. Go down here and push the very next button now that we're connected. And that should start an auto loop, which is set at 3.5 seconds. And we're going to see little stars pop up here. Of course, it's a very small telescope, like 30 millimeters, and the camera is a very small CMOS type camera. It's a Zero. So those will start, and once that starts, we're going to guide here. It's already looping, I believe, so we're going to go to auto select stars. It's auto selecting the stars, and then once it auto selects our stars, we'll go ahead and hit begin guiding. But we'll let this run for a little while and calibrate itself before we take our image plan, or we're going to have streaks everywhere. We're going to have star trails if we don't do it. So once it's calibrated, it'll tell me that it's calibrated, and we'll go from there. All right, so mission control is running. We have the small sky watcher here, and I couldn't figure out what I was going to shoot tonight with the small one, the 135, because there's not a whole lot of big targets out right now for wide field astrophotography. Of course, we got this one here with the 14 mil, and we took some Milky Way photos with it. We get to the right screen, play them back to kind of get this to focus. So I'm really impressed with how overall dark it is out here. I don't know why it's so much darker tonight than normal, but the Milky Way, as you can see, I'm shooting it right there in the lights. A lot of light pollution on that side of the sky, but it's coming in sharp. I'm really impressed with that. It's over the lake, a little lake that my daughter says has radioactive frogs in it. This is danger, do not enter. So this mount here is also shooting Andromeda, and with everything hooked to it, it's shooting at about 400 millimeters. This one here, it's not on an auto stretch, but I could auto stretch it to see. Do an auto stretch on there to see what we're getting. And we're getting pretty good banding on the clouds and everything. Of course, at 400 millimeters, it's going to come out a lot better. Oh, I just ran into a chair because I can't see it. At least it was a chair and not the mount. So yeah, I got a little lower histogram on there, but I'm 67 in of 200. So what I'll do is I'll take
Exposure started.
as many images as I can and I'll stack them on top of each other and tweak the
Exposure
images
finished.
and probably use Pix and Sight and maybe bring it over to Photoshop and just raise saturations and make it to where you can see Andromeda clearly. We'll bring out the colors and things in that.
Exposure started.
But it's really, I've been fortunate because I know the moon is supposed to rise over here, but I haven't seen it yet. Jupiter's big in the sky tonight. And Saturn's just above it. So this is not really picking it up well. In the car, over here, is Mary Beth asleep. She couldn't hang with us, but she did go in the graveyard with us to take some pictures, which is kind of creepy at night. But I thought she did a good job. They got some little solar lights on these graves over here. We'll keep plugging away. It's just after midnight, so looks like we're gonna finish up. This is saying 4:15 a.m., but I'm liable to cut it before then. So far, the clouds have held at bay. It's been a blessing because we've had 3 months of clouds. And it definitely shows because I was way out of practice with my astrophotography. It took me forever to get polar aligned. I just about forgot where Polaris was in the sky. I had to trace it off the Big Dipper.